Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz, and it's Ben Ferguson with you. It's so nice to have you with us. Certainly, if you're listening on radio right now as well, we love having you with us as well. And this is going to be a really fun show tonight, Senator, because we're going to get to have a good friend of ours on, take a pause sort of from politics for a moment, talk about a cool new book that is out, and what was behind writing this book, and I'll let you take it from there.
You know, Ben, I got to say, we try to count on being honest and candid with our viewers and listeners, and yet you just claimed that we're going to take a break from politics. And this is about as far away from taking a break from politics as I can possibly imagine. Today, we are very pleased to welcome our friend Eric Trump, President Donald Trump's son, who has a brand new book. A brand new book came out this week. The book is entitled Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. He is in the midst of his nationwide book tour right now, and in classic Trump fashion, he's on the list, and there's only one place to be on the list, and that is at number one. It's the number one best-selling book in America right now. And Eric, this is your first book. It ain't bad debuting at number one. Congratulations and welcome.
Mr. Senator, now it will probably be my last book as well, because I'm not doing this again. You know, the return on time of books is especially when you put your heart and soul into it. But yeah, we're number one on Amazon. We're number one in all the lists, and it just went viral. I think people in this country are pissed off, and Mr. Senator, you've done a better job fighting against the weaponization of government than I would say just about anybody other than maybe Donald Trump, right? Who's had to face all of this. And, I became the piñata in this whole fight because I was the one guy who didn't have constitutional protections. I was a civilian. Yeah. I was the guy that was running the Trump organization. I was the guy that ran everything that was outside of Washington, D.C. for my father when he went into the White House. And what they tried to do to us, what they tried to do to our family, yes, what they tried to do to this nation, what they tried to do to you and all your viewers on this show is unthinkable. And somebody had to materialize it because it was the greatest governmental corruption this nation has ever seen.
Well, you're right, and they launched everything they had at your father, at your family. 4 separate indictments on top of that, the asinine case from the New York Attorney General, trying to argue that somehow global international banks are innocent waifs who are deceived and apparently are unable to value real estate because, giant banks have never had to value real estate in the past. I will confess, for me, maybe the most absurd moment of all of it was when the idiot judge in New York valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million, which I'll confess,
I would have bought it for that.
I saw your dad not shortly after that, and I offered it on the spot. I said, Mr. President, I'll give you $20 million right now.
Yeah, I'll take 2.
I mean, as you know, you can't buy a hot dog stand in Palm Beach for $18 million, and that notion, to me, it was the most ludicrous. It was a relatively small detail of what was a pile of idiocy upon idiocy, but you guys were the targets of it, and it cannot have been fun.
Mr. Senator, I became the most subpoenaed man in American history for doing absolutely nothing wrong. I'm not Hunter Biden. I never had a speeding ticket in my life. I've lived a very straight, very good life, hardworking guy, no games, never even approached a line, raised right, and they tried to destroy us. I was the one that was getting calls from the FBI. You remember the Russia hoax very well because you were probably the best person at fighting against it. Eric, I hear you have secret servers in the basement of Trump Tower communicating directly with the Kremlin. I go, excuse me? I literally started, Mr. Senator, I started laughing. I go, first of all, you don't keep servers in basements because basements flood. Second of all, we're largely cloud-based. And they did it so a greedy woman could get about 3 extra votes, right? And they used that as their explanation as to why she lost. And then it was impeachment number 1, and then it was impeachment number 2, and then it was them attacking Kavanaugh, and then it was 112 subpoenas that I received for, again, doing nothing wrong, and then it was a weaponization of every attorney general and district attorney in this country, whether it be Letitia James or Alvin Bragg or Cy Vance or Fannie Willis and her boyfriend in Fulton, Georgia, or Jack Smith or Comey and everything that they did. Then they spied on our campaign. Then they did the weaponization of FISA. Then they took my father off the ballot in Colorado. And then they took him off the ballot in Maine. And when that didn't work, they tried to silence his voice and get rid of his First Amendment rights. So what did they do? Took him off of YouTube, took him off of Twitter, took him off of Facebook, took him off of Instagram. And when that didn't work, when we popped up Truth Social, what did they do? They had every judge impose gag orders on him. And then they raided Mar-a-Lago. I was the guy that got the call when 30 FBI agents were outside screaming in a phone to me, turn off the security cameras at Mar-a-Lago. They did everything they could, and then they debanked us, and then they deplatformed us. They tried to bankrupt us. They tried to imprison us. And I'll never forget walking out of that jail cell with my father in New York after the 34 felony counts, right, which have all been overturned. And I said, Dad, we either win the White House or you and I are in jail for doing absolutely nothing wrong. That's how diabolical the pendulum was. And they were doing it to the people in this country as well. They were debanking them. They were going after their pastors. They were going after their churches. They were weaponizing the IRS. You know, they were skipping great people who had worked their butts off their entire year because of DEI hires and literally ruining upward mobility of people across the country. They were corrupting their children. They were teaching them revisionist history. This siege wasn't just against the Trump family. It was against all of us. It was against both of you. It was against every person that's watching us right now. And people are pissed off in this country. And that's why this book went to #1.
You mentioned Mar-a-Lago a second ago and getting that phone call. Can you just explain how insane that day must have been? Because I know people, we saw it on TV, but you were on the inside. And when you're getting a phone call, they're telling you to turn your cameras off.
So, like, what time of day is it? What are you doing? How does the call come in?
It was about 7:50, 8 o'clock in the morning when I got a call from my team. They say there are 30 FBI agents and they have a search warrant. I go, what are they searching? I'm not sure if I understand. Like, we have, like, such a great relationship with law enforcement. It was bizarre at the time. I go, how would I not know about this from Secret Service? How would I not know? I mean, they didn't give anybody warning. And I'll never forget, I said, I finally figured out what they were doing. And I said, did anybody let my father know? And it was my team, really. And they said no. And I go, I'll call him right now. And we met in his office. And that's when he wrote up that beautiful tweet, as you remember. And the FBI was so damn pissed that we sent out that tweet. They wanted to have the narrative. They wanted to be able to release a story. And instead, my father writes that beautiful tweet. You know, right now the FBI is raiding the famous Mar-a-Lago, my home. You know, and the world went crazy. The world couldn't stand it. It was the worst decision that they ever made. And remember, Senator, they said it was on behalf of NARA, right? National Archives. Yep. Does anybody? I went on Hannity that night. I go, does anybody actually believe a glorified library sent 30 FBI agents to invade Mar-a-Lago with firearms? Give me a break, right? And then sure enough, it comes out that it was Joe Biden and it was Merrick Garland and it was the whole host of criminals that weaponized the entire system. But I'll never forget that call. 30 FBI agents outside of Mar-a-Lago. They searched Melania's room. They searched Barron's room. They took attorney-client privilege documents. They took HIPAA documents. You can't make it up.
Many of you may not know this. I actually own 2 different barbecue restaurants, one right now, and the quality of meat when you want to make amazing food is so vitally important. Now, you've heard of Big Pharma, but have you ever heard of Big Ag? Did you know that 85% of American beef is controlled by just 4 major companies? Just because you buy American doesn't mean you're buying healthy. And buying organic only means they control what the cattle eat, not how they live. Well, that's why I want you to know about Backyard Butchers. It is Texas steer steaks that come directly from a real Texas ranch where the cattle are raised, processed, and shipped from the same location, completely bypassing Big Ag. These Texas steers are 98% grass-fed and then 2% natural grain finish. That's how you get amazing steaks with no growth hormones, no antibiotics, and no preservatives. The quality and flavor are just straight up exceptional. Making America healthy again, yes, that is a big deal. And it starts with going back to our roots and eating real meat from the hardworking ranchers who raise cattle the right way. So try it. You're going to love it. So go to backyardbutchers.com, enter the promo code VERDICT for up to 30% off, 2 free 10-ounce ribeyes, and free shipping when you subscribe. So fight back against Big Ag with your fork. Support American ranchers, support Texas, and you're going to get a great meal. Backyardbutchers.com, promo code VERDICT to get up to 30% off and 2 free 10-ounce ribeyes plus free shipping right now. I know you're going to try to terrorize the New York Times a little bit. That's the hardest thing, is just to screw with them and be at the top of their list. So everyone listening, I hope you'll buy the book just so we can screw with them a little bit. Senator, you've been at the top of that list. It's hard to get there.
Well, I will say, Eric, you should brace yourself. It doesn't matter how many copies of the book you sell. The New York Times is going to insist that like Left-Handed Transgender Witches is the #1 book in America. And to be fair, in the New York Times newsroom, it probably is the #1 book in America. But if you get outside the New York Times and to the rest of America, there are a lot of people right now that are going to Amazon. Go to Amazon right now, buy Eric Trump's book. Keep it at #1. Annoy a liberal, buy 2. Buy 1 for yourself and buy 1 to give a liberal just to drive them crazy. And to say, explain to me again how you think weaponization is a bad thing, because your liberal friends, to the extent you have any, that they haven't defriended you, they're not going to have an answer to that. Eric, tell me, what was your dad's reaction when you went in and told him, okay, the FBI agents are here? I assume he was pissed, but like, what was his immediate reaction when you tell him that?
He was actually remarkably calm. I've seen my father pissed many times, but he doesn't get pissed off in situations of kind of like great anguish and stress, right? It's no different than Butler, but almost foreshadowed Butler. It was the same thing. I probably would have been pissed in Butler, and I think he was actually remarkably calm, especially in the aftermath of what happened. And he was always his calmest in the worst moments, always. I mean, and Senator, you saw many of them. I mean, you were there for many of them in so many different ways. He never let emotion fly. It was a very. He goes, "You got to be kidding me." All right, honey, meet me in my office. We're going to write up a statement. And that's when he let that truth fly. And, the rest is history. I mean, for the next month, they had helicopters buzzing over Mar-a-Lago. And, the scenes of that front gate, you remember this, the cop car in front of the front gate of Mar-a-Lago? I mean, Mar-a-Lago became, not that it wasn't probably already, but it became the most famous property in the world based on that raid and what they did. And in the aftermath of all of it, we find out Jack Smith was bringing in classified folders and effectively staging photo shoots on the office floor of my father's office. But, as I said before, guys, I mean, they were going through Melania's closet. They were going through Barron's room. They literally, they took his medical records, right? Like HIPAA-related records. That pissed off the judge. I can only tell you. They took attorney-client documents, right? That also really pissed off Eileen Cannon, the judge on the case.
Sure.
You couldn't believe it. And then, again, all of this was staged. You think Donald Trump just leaves classified folders fanned out perfectly on the floor? I mean, it was all staged. It was all set up. They wanted to imprison him. They wanted to take his voice. They wanted to imprison him. They wanted him behind bars. They didn't want him to be able to campaign. They wanted to weaponize the system in any way, shape, or form. And they weren't able to do it.
A lot of people remember the deplatforming, and you mentioned that earlier. And you go back to the end of his first term in office. But one of the things you mentioned earlier on was they tried to ruin your businesses by debanking you.
Yeah.
Can you explain for people that don't understand just how critical that was in a time in the Trump organization? I mean, you've been handed the family business to run it, and now you're finding out you can't even have banking the way that you need to have banking to literally run businesses. Whether you're a big business or a small business, a lot of people listening right now, if you don't have a bank, you don't have a business.
Yeah, Ben, it was that times 100. I mean, they and literally it was coordinated by the administration. There's no question about it. And they called up and they said, listen, congratulations, you canceled the account. I was getting these letters. I got one from Capital One. They had 300 bank accounts. And these aren't like baby bank accounts. These are massive commercial buildings that have hundreds of tenants, thousands of people working in these buildings, hundreds, if not thousands of vendors, heavy real estate taxes. I mean, people, hundreds and hundreds of people their livelihoods depend on these businesses. They've got complicated lockbox provisions and loan documents, thousands of inputs coming in like this, and they just called up, your accounts are going to get closed. You've got 1 or 2 days to move them, and congratulations, you're done. All because we wore a hat that said, "Make America Great Again." Yeah. That was red. These were commercial buildings. These were condominium associations. These were small golf courses. These were, residential shops. These were escrow accounts. Things that had nothing to do with politics whatsoever. And they canceled us like we were dogs. Capital One was the worst. JP Morgan was horrible. Bank of America was horrible. First Republic was terrible. But it wasn't just the banks. It was platforms. Shopify. Shopify literally gave us a notice. They do all the e-com platforms in the middle of the night, turned off our accounts like we were nothing, right? We were selling golf polos that we have at, from Mar-a-Lago, and they did everything they could to hurt us, to turn off the rails, right? Again, they wanted our voice gone. They wanted us bankrupt. They wanted the name off of every building. They wanted us thrown out of New York. You had Letitia James that was trying to repossess our assets. I mean, it was almost like forfeiture. It was not constitutional. Hence the reason the appellate courts threw out the case 5-0 and we got a resounding victory 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Guys, they tried everything they could. And because I was the guy outside of Washington, D.C., because I ran the company, it all fell on me. That's how I became the most subpoenaed person in the history of this country, having never done a damn thing wrong. They wanted to get to my father coming through me.
Now, were these business accounts, personal accounts, both? I mean, how many accounts are we talking about roughly? Like what?
500, wow. Lots of those being business accounts, all of them being us. My wife has a athletic clothing line. JP Morgan Chase wouldn't open up an account. So, for her, she's not Donald Trump. She's not the Trump organization. They did this to everyone in the family. If you even came close, I have a little farm with a couple buddies. They canceled that account. Doesn't wear a Trump name. It can't. They were indiscriminate. If it was 6 degrees of separation from Trump, they canceled us. And honestly, guys, I'm an outspoken, big fan of cryptocurrency. That's how I found crypto. Because I realized how quickly financial institutions can be weaponized against the American people, and realized that there's nothing that can be done on, using traditional financial institutions that can't be done better, faster, cheaper, safer, and more efficiently using cryptocurrency. And I'm the biggest proponent of it.
Did they even purport to give you any explanation, or did they just say
no?
It's canceled? They didn't. Was there any details, or you just get phone calls or get an email and say, okay, this account's done? Yeah,
other than a lot of the people that worked in the banks who otherwise said this is the most. I can't believe it. I can't believe what my bank's doing. This is all political. That's what they're saying in the corridors every day. They canceled you for political reasons. There's no other explanation. They're telling us, we can't talk to you ever again. It was unbelievable, and I would not wish that on my worst enemy. To take the rails of being able to pay employees. These are housekeepers. These are janitors. These are engineers. These are security officers. These are drivers, hospitality workers. To not be able to pay them a salary, all because somebody wanted to politicize a system against a candidate because they happened to be a conservative and they believed in making America great again.
Senator, this is a story that we're hearing about the weaponization of the private sector, not the government, the private sector against the Trump organization. The moment that he just said 500 bank accounts just shut down, I'm shocked by that. I think you were as well.
That number, I'd never heard anything remotely close to that. I mean, that really is stunning. So you're running your family's outside businesses. You get these calls. What do you do when you're given, what you said, 24 hours, 48 hours notice? Were there banks that were willing to welcome your business, or what did you do with 500 accounts being canceled?
You had a lot of attorney generals and you had a lot of government institutions that were going to these banks saying, don't even think about it. Don't touch that account. Letitia James was doing that to the bonding companies when we had to, after the initial ruling, when we had to post a $600 million bond. By the way, that was like 5 times the size of the Boeing bond. That made them, literally. I mean, it was the biggest bond ever seen in the country. And she was going to the very same institution saying, "Don't even touch that bond." So we had to post a bond based on the court before we had everything overturned. And she was going to the biggest insurance company saying, "You don't touch that bond. You're registered in New York, and if you touch that bond, I'm going to think less favorably on you." That's how badly they weaponize the system. What do you do when you get those letters? You want to crawl under your desk, and honestly, I had probably 100 people in the company that didn't sleep for a 6-month period of time who were distraught. And thank God we had enough little local banks, that you move all the accounts, unthinkable, right, to these little local branches who want to take your money. But these weren't the JP Morgans. These weren't the Bank of Americas. They were small little mom and pop regional banks that did the right thing and honestly probably saved us based on the fact that they were willing to do the right thing. This didn't just happen to us. I was on the campaign trail. I'd hear from people every single day, my bank canceled me. Why? Well, my company makes a spring, and the spring goes in a fishing reel, and that fishing reel sold at Bass Pro Shops, and Bass Pro Shops sells 12-gauge duck hunting ammo. And they thought the affiliation. I heard this everywhere I went. I heard it from the crypto guys. I believed in Bitcoin. I believed in stablecoin. I believe in the future of kind of modern finance. And because I believed in cryptocurrency, my banks canceled me. Wachovia canceled me. Bank of America canceled me. Guys, I heard this all over the place. We need to make this illegal. And it is. It's illegal in a lot of states and under a lot of banking clauses. But the fact that you can literally, I mean, could you imagine if AT&T or Verizon just decided to cancel all conservative cell phones?
Yeah.
Right? If you can't bank, you can't survive. If you can't bank, you can't eat. If you can't bank, you can't pay employees. And yet they turned us off like we were dogs.
How much money do you think that Trump, when you guys were out during the 4 years and under siege like this, how many business deals got blown up because people were afraid even to just do business with you because they were afraid their business would be affected negatively and they could be targeted? I'm assuming that was a reality for quite some time.
Well, I talk a lot about it in the book. I mean, there were reporters that just made their whole livelihoods. David Fahrenhold from the Washington Post and others, made their entire livelihoods calling up, vendors of ours, calling up our employees, calling up brides and grooms that were going to get married at one of the properties, one of the hotels.
They were harassing people that were getting married at Trump resorts.
Oh, I have more emails than you can possibly imagine. I hear you're going to go get married at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, really? This might have to make the front cover of our respective paper. Can you please give me comment? And these brides and grooms are saying, I just want to get married in peace. This is a beautiful property. I'm not a political person. I just, it's a 5-star property. I love the place. It's convenient. My family lives nearby. Whatever the hell the reason, they were doing that. They were extorting employees. They were going up to employees. They frankly tried to do it to me. Hey, you tell us anything about Donald Trump, we'll let you go. All your problems will disappear.
They tried to turn you against your own father.
Alvin Bragg, are you kidding me? The old Cyrus Vance, all of them. They weaponized every DA and AG to try and flip every single person to say anything negative, to get any negative testimony against Donald Trump for their own political purposes. Absolutely. That was the whole game they played, and no one in our company broke. Guys, this was the siege that I dealt with every single day, right? I mean, it was all of these factors that came together all at once, all the time, doing anything they could to just chop us off at every single. I mean, when they made up the dirty dossier, when they made up, right? I mean, they have stories about prostitution in there, about golden you-know-whats, right?
Yep.
What do you think they were trying? They were trying to divorce my father. They were trying to destroy his marriage. They were trying to break up our family. That's what they were trying to do. Also, a greedy woman could get, again, 2 more votes. These people are sick. These people are deranged, and there's been zero accountability for any of it. And as a son who fought by my father's side every single day during this battle, somebody had to tell this story. Somebody had to tell the inside perspective of the lengths that a corrupt government will go to, besides just spying on campaigns and besides just raiding homes, all the things that they did to try and destroy us, to try and destroy Make America Great Again, and try and destroy conservatives all across the country.
Look, it was unmitigated evil, and part of it was driven by hate. Today, the defining characteristic, I think, of the Democrat Party is they hate your father.
Yeah.
And they hate your family. I mean, that anything connected to your father, they hate. And I think it also, though, was a deep contempt for democracy. I think every one of these indictments, I think the weaponization that we saw, their underlying terror is that the voters would do what they did in November of 2024 and vote to reelect your father. And this was all about undermining democracy and preventing the voters from doing that. Eric, you mentioned earlier that you described yourself as the most subpoenaed man in America. How many subpoenas did you get, and did you testify a lot of times? Were they demanding documents? What subpoenas were coming in?
112 subpoenas. I sat in more depositions than any human being in the history of depositions. And by the way, these are like big boy subpoenas, right? They're all coming from, your close friend Elizabeth Warren, as we like to call her, Pocahontas, and many others. We turned over. I mean, they would ask for document discovery. Please give us every email in the company, and they would list 1,000 words. But aside from that, they would list national and international. Well, all our hotels are Trump International Hotel, and all our golf courses are Trump National Golf Course. Yeah. You can probably see where this is going. Every email signature of every person in the company either has the word national or international in it. That's their fishing expedition. I actually brought this to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court specifically told them you can't fish, right? And they did it. They did it anyway. The judges didn't give a damn. They wanted to find any comma that was out of place, and they couldn't. I mean, in the Letitia James trial, literally, Deutsche Bank was on the stand saying that Trump was the best lender that they've ever had, right? We made them hundreds of millions of dollars, paid off every loan, paid it off ahead of time, never missed a payment. Even in the darkest days of COVID, when they made us shut down our properties, we never missed. We never defaulted. We never breached a covenant. And then one day I wake up to the nightmare of you're fined $600 million for doing nothing wrong with banks that loved us, that testified that they loved us. I mean, it was, and that's because you had a crooked judge. Again, got overturned 5-0 at the next court. Yep. But they rigged the entire system. And you're seeing them do that right now, right? You're seeing them do that in Washington, D.C., where 94% of the cases that go in front of the lower courts are literally, going against the administration. And then they all have to go up on appeal and get overturned. But guys, the beautiful thing about this story is we won, right? I mean, the media lost. The media lost their credibility. No one likes the mainstream media. I mean, my wife is on Fox News on a Saturday at 9 p.m., and she's getting 4x the ratings of CNN on the same time slot on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in prime time slots, right? No one likes the mainstream media. ABC's dead, NBC's dead, CNN's dead, and independent voices like these podcasts are winning the day.
And by the way, she is doing an awesome job. I had a chance to be on her show, and she's a great interviewer because she's relaxed, she's having fun, she's asking real questions, and it's night and day. I will occasionally do CNN. Poor Ben was on CNN for 6-7 years. I actually think he has a padded room, and he like puts on a straitjacket when he remembers those times.
Fighting commies for 7 years.
Hey, listen, I just came off Caitlin Collins about 20 minutes ago. All right, it's
thoughts and
trust
prayers. Thoughts and prayers, Eric. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
It's so bad. Let me ask you, when all of this was coming in, and it is not exaggeration to say there has never been a political leader subject to more weaponization, more assaults, more insanely unfair attacks than your father has been. Was there ever a time that you felt yourself giving in to despair, and do you think your dad ever did?
Yeah, honestly, it's like we're like masochistic. We like pain or something along those lines, right? It's like a weird trait, right? And I think it served us well. But no, I think we were so pissed off at that point. We wanted to fight and we wanted to win and we wanted to save the Constitution. We want to save the American flag. We want to save religion in society. We want to save the Second Amendment. We want to end wokeness. We wanted to stop the DEI nonsense. Men my size swimming in women's sport. We wanted to save the greatest country in the world against absolute lunacy. And so we never gave up. We never stopped fighting. We went out there and we punched back every single day, and we did that as a family. I never left that stage. And honestly, I've never been more proud of a human being in my life.
Every so often, something happens that reminds us just how fragile our freedoms are. We can't afford to take our rights for granted. We must draw a line in the sand. And our friends at Patriot Mobile have been doing just that for more than 12 years. The truth is, there is only one provider that boldly stands in the gap for Americans who believe freedom is worth fighting for. And that company is Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the red economy, they're also outpacing the competition in technology. Patriot Mobile is one of the only carriers offering premium access to all three major U.S. networks, giving you nationwide coverage and service that you can count on day after day. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and so much more. And switching has never been easier. You can activate in minutes on your phone from your home or your office, and you keep your same number you've got now, keep your same phone, or upgrade to a new one. And this is where the magic happens. Every month, about 5% of your bill is given back to conservative causes at no extra cost to you that stand up for our First and our Second Amendment rights, the rights of unborn children, and our wounded warriors, and those that have fought for our country and wear a badge. So go to patriotmobile.com/verdict, and you are going to get a free month of service with the promo code VERDICT, or you can call them 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. Or call them and go online at patriotmobile.com/verdict. Promo code VERDICT for a free month of service. Make the switch and make a difference every time you pay your bill. All right, so our guest with us is Eric Trump, Senator. You and I were just talking with him about this, really, his family being under siege. You talked about these big boy subpoenas. Part of that is to financially hurt you.
Of course.
What did you guys spend just doing the fighting of all the lawsuits against you during that 4-year period, how much did it cost you?
Roughly $400 million. You know, wow. guys, I laugh when people are, oh, Trump is profiting off of government. I go, wait, excuse me. If you want to come in, I'll break down the finances. You want to, Trump's profit? We spent $400 million to defend ourselves against nonsense. The fact that we did not have secret servers communicating with the Kremlin, the fact that Don wasn't a Russian agent. Remember, you had Adam Schiff out there every single day.
Yeah.
Donald Trump Jr. is a Russian agent. Guys, if he wasn't protected by the speech and debate clause, you would have, honestly, the guy would have been worth zero. He would have been living in a shoebox based on the fact that you would have sued him for slander and taken everything that he ever had. It was all made up lies. They did everything they possibly could to take us down. We spent over $400 million between that, Letitia, Alvin Bragg, Cy Vance, Fannie. I mean, I could go on and on. The raids, the Mar-a-Lago.
Who's the worst to deal with between Alvin Bragg, Cy Vance, Letitia James, Jack Smith? Who was the worst?
Probably Letitia, if you want to know the truth. I mean, it was so corrupt. And I don't know, Alvin Bragg, because you had Mershon. I mean, Judge Mershon's daughter is like the head digital fundraiser for the Democratic Party, and the guy wouldn't recuse himself. And literally, you'd be sitting in these courtrooms, guys, and I would not leave my father's side. I sat next to him every single day. If he was there, I was going to be there as a son to support him. And most of the time, some of these cases I wasn't gagged in. So normally I was the guy in the courthouse steps, shouting and yelling at the cameras as to what the hell was actually going on, because that's the only way you could communicate a message. But guys, I mean, you had liberal, and I mean liberal reporters who were in that courtroom shaking their heads saying, none of this makes any sense. I mean, they shut down all of Manhattan, lower Manhattan, for a $100,000 payment that my father didn't even make, made by a lawyer. They indicted him 34 times. I mean, Al Capone had one felony indictment. They indicted my father 34 times for a $100,000 payment. By the way, by a district attorney who ran on the premise of reducing just decriminalizing just about anything. You can shoot somebody in the face in Times Square and it was decriminalized and you're going to let them out and, you're going to have community policing and all sorts of nonsense. I mean, he ran on the premise of literally emptying Rikers Island so you had no criminals in there, yet, 34 felonies in a 6-month period of time is shutting down New York and the FDR Drive every day over $100,000. I mean, it wasn't believable.
If only your father were mugging people in Times Square, then Alvin Bragg would never have prosecuted him. But instead, he committed the unspeakable sin of not only being president of the United States, but being an extraordinarily successful and bold president of the United States, which is an unpardonable sin. All right, we don't have much time left, but I want to take it a little bit lighter, and ask, what was it like? Like, your father is unique. I've never in my life have I met anyone remotely like your father. He and I have spent a lot of time together. He has extraordinary courage. But before he was president, what was it like growing up as a kid with Donald Trump as your father? What was he like as a dad when you were 10?
Honestly, the greatest dad you could ever imagine. Expected big things from us, right? I mean, every day I'd go give him a kiss before I went to school. Honey, no drinking, no drugs, no smoking. You better get good grades. And by the way, never trust anybody, right? He'd once in a while add that in. Never trust anyone. Hey, this probably
knew how important that was going to be. Now,
yeah, as I said, it probably benefited us pretty well. So, amazing guy. Listen, we were spoiled as hell in that we lived in Trump Tower. We had a beautiful roof over our head. We were always well fed. We had the best education. But we were never handed money. We were never handed cash. If we wanted something, if I wanted a fishing rod, congratulations, you're working for it. I got on our construction sites when I was 11 years old, doing demo, doing electrical, HVAC, running backhoes, excavators. I grew up working with my hands on our construction sites with many of the guys that work for me today. And you know what? He wanted us to learn a trait. He wanted us to learn the value of a dollar. And by the way, he wanted us to be tired as hell at the end of the day. Because listen, don't give type A kids, or any kid, but don't give type A kids money or free time because bad things happen. And
Amen.
He was an amazing father. He is an amazing father. And everything we've ever done, we fought together, whether it's real estate, whether it was The Apprentice. I was on that for 7 seasons. And then in politics, I mean, when he decided to run, he said to us, he goes, kids, let's do this. I was on Megyn Kelly. I didn't know what the hell immigration was. I mean, Senator, this was not my world. I built hotels, and all of a sudden now I'm in a middle box.
Build a wall, and now you're on TV.
I've got 9 illegal immigrants around me, and I'm battling all of them, and I don't know the first damn thing about illegal immigration, right? I mean, like, this is not the world that we came from. But my father's a remarkable guy. My mother was an amazing powerhouse and strict, demanded manners, demanded respect, demanded work ethic, and I have the greatest parents you can ever imagine. I spent a lot of time in Under Siege talking about, being raised by them, and, it was unique in so many ways, but they did everything they could in this strange world that we lived in to ground us and make sure we turned out to be hard workers, normal, and didn't have any of these kind of Hunter Biden-esque problems. I don't have a laptop from hell. I don't do finger painting, selling it to, foreign nationals all over the world. I never married my brother's ex-wife, like never did that kind of stuff. No drugs, no perversion. I was always a good kid who believed in God and believed in hard work and, lived an honest life.
Eric, I can't tell you how many times, dozens if not hundreds of times, people have commented that one of the things they admire most about your dad is you and your brothers and sisters. And listen, it is hard for any successful person to raise good kids. It's challenging. There's a lot of pressure, and I know your entire family, and I will say, literally, people early on throughout the process, they'll comment, well, somehow his kids are like not messed up and incredibly successful and put together, and I mean, it's all right. Let me ask you. Let's say we have some young parents that are listening to this podcast. Yeah. Are there any lessons? A young parent, by the way, Ben has young kids. I have teenage kids. Are there any lessons from your dad that young parents should know, or lessons that you've tried to apply?
Yeah. Keep them poor and make them start working early. Honestly, I mean, that's what it is. Keep them poor. Don't give type A kids money. And don't give them endless time. That's just a bad recipe, right? And I can't tell you guys how many friends I had, who were peers who went to school with me, and 3/4 of them ended up in rehab, and a lot of them went down bad roads. And guess what? They were getting Ferraris, when they're 16 years old. Like, what do you ever want to aspire to get if that's how you're being raised? I mean, does it surprise you that those people don't have work ethic? Does it surprise you that they go down bad roads? And my father would never let that happen to us. And, he made us work our butts off. And believe me, if I wasn't good at what I did, real estate-wise, I would not be in this chair. I mean, forget about nepotism for a second. If we weren't incredibly capable, believe me, I wouldn't be running one of the largest real estate empires anywhere in the world. And he made us work, and he made us prove that we were good at what we do, and we fought every single day. And we're an incredibly tight family, and he's a remarkable person. He's my best friend. I love him to death. And I'm so proud of him, especially in a week where he's accomplished as much as he had. I am so damn proud of what he did and what he's accomplished, and the hell of a journey. Guys, it's all worth it. This is all worth it. The siege is all worth it based on, the great things that are happening to our country and our world.
Grab the book, Under Siege, Amazon right now. Eric, a pleasure to have you on. Don't forget, grab the podcast, share it wherever you can, and thanks for joining us. It's Verdict with Ted Cruz, Ben Ferguson with you. We'll see you back here on the podcast all week long.